You've been lied to your entire life about love, about relationships, about how to keep someone close to you. They told you if you want them, you have to show it, prove it, chase them, fight for them, beg for their attention, never let go. And that is why so many people end up broken, exhausted, and forgotten, because they spent their entire energy running after someone who was walking away. What if I told you the exact opposite is true? What if I told you the real secret isn't in calling, texting, or chasing, but in silence, in restraint, in turning all that energy back toward yourself? This is not what you've heard before. This isn't the soft, sugar-coated advice that tells you to be patient, to wait, to keep trying. This is the raw truth nobody tells you because it's uncomfortable, because it forces you to face the reality that love built on begging is not love, and respect built on chasing is not respect. And here's the shocking part: you don't lose people when you stop chasing them. You lose illusions, you lose the fantasy. What remains is the truth, and the truth is powerful. Stay with me until the end of this video, because I'm not just going to expose why begging kills attraction and why silence is louder than words. I'm going to show you the one shift that flips everything, the shift that makes you magnetic, undeniable, unforgettable, not because you begged for attention, but because you became too powerful to ignore. By the time this video ends, you will never look at chasing, calling, or texting the same way again. You'll know exactly why the game changes the moment you choose yourself. When you beg for love, when you chase after someone's attention, when you flood their phone with texts and calls, you might think you're proving your feelings. You might convince yourself that persistence is romantic, that fighting for someone shows loyalty. But here's the brutal truth most people never dare to say. Begging and chasing don't prove love, they prove a lack of self-worth. They are not a reflection of your devotion. They are a reflection of your desperation. And desperation is the most unattractive energy a human being can radiate. It drains respect, it suffocates desire, and it kills attraction faster than anything else. Think about it. The very moment you beg, you send out a subconscious message: you are above me. I need you more than you need me. I will shrink myself just to keep you in my life. Do you realize how deeply destructive that is? You are teaching the other person to see you as optional, to treat you as less, to believe that your worth depends on their approval. And once that dynamic is created, it is almost impossible to reverse because you've handed them all the power. Attraction is not built on desperation. It's built on value, mystery, respect, and energy. The more you chase, the more you reveal that you don't value yourself. The more you cling, the more you suffocate their freedom, and the more you beg, the more you strip away the very mystery that makes someone curious about you in the first place. What you think is an act of love is actually an act of self-erasure. You're erasing your own dignity for the sake of being chosen, not realizing that anyone worth having will never need you to erase yourself to be with them. Psychology has long shown that humans are wired to value what is scarce, what feels earned, what feels significant. Begging flips that law on its head. It makes you abundant, predictable, and easy, and when something is easy, it is rarely respected. If you're always available, always calling, always chasing, you become noise instead of music, background instead of presence. The very thing you want, love, respect, attention, slips further away because your actions scream the opposite of strength. Now, let me tell you something deeper. Begging doesn't just destroy attraction. It destroys you. It eats at your soul. Because every unanswered text, every ignored call, every moment you're chasing someone who doesn't value you is a reminder that you've placed your worth in the wrong hands. You slowly lose the most precious thing you have, self-respect, and once self-respect is gone, you will tolerate anything, lies, betrayal, neglect, just to hold on to the illusion of love. But here's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing, the moment you stop begging, everything shifts. Not only do they start to notice your absence, but you start to notice your own presence. You remember who you are. You reconnect with your strength. You stop defining yourself through their validation and start defining yourself through your own vision, your own purpose. That's the kind of energy that draws people toward you without effort. That's the kind of energy that cannot be ignored. So, the question is not, how do I get them to love me? The real question is, why do I believe I have to beg to be loved? Love that requires begging is not love. Respect that requires chasing is not respect. Attention that only comes after desperation is not attention worth having. Never forget this. Begging might keep someone in your life temporarily, but it will cost you your dignity permanently. And dignity, once lost, is far harder to reclaim than any person who walks away. So stop begging, stop chasing. Stop proving, let silence speak, let self-respect carry you, let them feel the weight of your absence rather than the noise of your desperation. Because the truth is simple and undeniable, if you must beg for it, it was never love, if you must chase it, it was never yours. And if you must lose yourself to gain it, then what you're holding on to is not worth keeping at all. Silence is one of the most misunderstood forms of communication. Most people think silence means weakness, avoidance, or indifference. They think if you don't explain yourself, if you don't call back, if you don't respond to every text, you will be forgotten. But in reality, silence is often the loudest message you will ever send. It carries weight, it carries mystery, and it carries a kind of strength that words cannot replicate. When you stop talking, when you stop over-explaining, when you refuse to argue or beg, you create space. And in that space, people are forced to confront themselves. They can no longer distract themselves with your energy, your attention, your constant presence. Suddenly, they are left with their own thoughts, their own guilt, their own longing. Silence holds up a mirror in a way that no argument ever could. Think about it. When you are always available, always chasing, always reaching out, you remove all curiosity. They know where you are, they know how you feel, they know they can have you at the snap of a finger. But when you go silent, when you stop explaining, when you stop feeding them your energy, they begin to wonder. And wondering is powerful. Wondering creates questions that eat at the mind. Why did they stop calling? Why aren't they chasing me anymore? Have they moved on? Did I lose them? Silence turns the spotlight back onto them. There's a reason why in psychology, silence is considered a form of control. Not control in the manipulative sense, but in the sense of emotional mastery. The one who can stay silent, the one who doesn't react, the one who doesn't spill their emotions at the feet of another, is the one who holds the power. Because reactions are power given away. Every time you respond out of desperation, every time you explain what didn't need explaining, you hand over your strength. Silence, on the other hand, is a declaration. I am not chasing, I am not explaining, I am not fighting for what should be freely given. And let me tell you, silence terrifies people who are used to controlling you. They thrive on your reactions, on your emotional outbursts, on your desperation. Your constant presence feeds their ego, but when you withdraw that, when you become still and quiet, they lose that control. And in that loss, they feel the discomfort of their own emptiness. Suddenly, it's not you chasing them, it's them chasing the meaning of your silence. But silence is not just about them, it's about you, because silence is where your power returns to you. In silence, you stop bleeding energy into places where it's not valued. In silence, you finally hear your own thoughts, your own intuition, your own truth. You stop living in reaction to someone else and start living in alignment with yourself. Silence is where healing begins. It's where clarity is born, and it's where respect is rebuilt. Most people fear silence because they confuse it with loneliness. They're terrified of sitting with themselves, terrified of not being validated, terrified of being forgotten. But let me tell you this, if someone forgets you because you went silent, they never truly valued you in the first place. Silence doesn't erase your presence, it amplifies it, because absence creates a hunger that presence cannot. The real strength is not in shouting, not in proving, not in explaining. The real strength is in restraint. The discipline to stay quiet when you want to scream, the courage to walk away instead of chase, the wisdom to let your absence do what your words could never achieve. That is power, that is respect, that is dignity. So if you want to be unforgettable, if you want to be respected, if you want to shift the entire balance of your relationships, learn to master silence. Let people feel the gap you leave behind. Let them taste the discomfort of your absence. And let them realize, without you having to say a word, that your presence was never ordinary, it was everything. Never underestimate the force of silence. Words beg, actions chase, but silence makes the world stop and listen. And the moment you understand that, you'll never fear being quiet again. The greatest mistake people make after heartbreak, rejection, or disappointment is pouring all their energy outward. They obsess over the other person, replay conversations, stalk social media, and ask endless questions. What are they doing? Who are they with? Why don't they want me? Every thought becomes about them, and in that obsession, you abandon yourself. You forget that the most powerful place to invest energy is not into another person's life, but into your own. When you stop chasing and begging, the question becomes, what do you do with all that energy you once gave away? That's where transformation begins. Because the truth is, the energy you were wasting trying to keep someone who didn't value you can become the very fuel that elevates you to your next level. Redirecting your focus onto yourself is not selfishness. It is survival, it is dignity, and it is the foundation of true self-worth. Think of it this way. Every call you didn't make, every text you didn't send, every chase you refused to run, that is time returned to you. What will you do with it? Most people drown in that silence. They can't handle the void, so they crawl back into old patterns just to escape themselves. But the few who are brave enough to face the void, to sit with themselves, to build, to grow, those are the people who rise. That's when self-focus becomes magnetic, because people can feel when you've shifted your energy inward, when you've built something solid inside yourself that no one can take away. Psychologically, humans are wired to be drawn to strength, to independence, to purpose. When your life is consumed by someone else, you lose that. You become a shadow instead of a light, but when you begin to invest in your own body, your own mind, your own purpose, people feel that shift instantly. You walk differently, you speak differently, you radiate differently. You stop needing validation because you've already validated yourself through action. You stop seeking attention because your presence demands it without words. And ironically, that's the exact moment when the very people who once ignored you begin to notice you. Not because you begged, but because you became undeniable. This is why focusing on yourself is not just about healing, it's about attraction, it's about power, it's about freedom. Because when your value is rooted in someone else's approval, you are enslaved to their moods, their choices, their treatment of you. But when your value is rooted in what you've built within yourself, you are free. No one can take that away. People may leave, relationships may change, but the strength you've cultivated remains yours. And let me remind you of something essential. The right people are drawn to your strength, not your desperation. The right partner, the right friend, the right opportunities will never require you to beg or chase. They will recognize your worth because you recognize it first. And that recognition only comes when you stop feeding everyone else with your energy and start feeding yourself with it. So ask yourself, are you going to keep investing in people who don't care, or are you going to invest in the one person who will always be with you, the one person who determines the entire direction of your life, every gym session, every book you read, every skill you master, every goal you achieve? Those are investments in the only place where returns are guaranteed. Yourself, the irony is that when you stop chasing them and start chasing your own growth, you not only heal, but you also become the type of person who naturally attracts better. Your silence has already unsettled them, your refusal to beg has already shocked them, but your transformation, that's what will leave them speechless. That's when they look back and realize they lost someone who was never replaceable. So the next time you feel the urge to call, to beg, to chase, pause, redirect, take that same energy and pour it into building yourself. Because in the end, the person you become will always matter more than the person you lost. And remember this truth, the most magnetic force in the world is not someone who needs love, but someone who embodies it. Focus on yourself until you become so whole, so powerful, so radiant, that anyone who walks away regrets it for the rest of their life.